New Gods of Remnant by Nyan Zangetsu, Chapter 4, Reasons to Protect. There is a fine line between justice and slaughter. Take care you don't step over it. Oh yes, take care indeed. Reasons to Protect. Time was invincible. You cannot defeat it, nor can you run away from it. You cannot hope to outlast it. Can one reason with eternity? Can one catch a storm in their hands? No, they cannot. You cannot bargain with the force of nature. It cares not for the clink of the coin. It has no empathy to move, no feelings to sway, because time is inevitable, everlasting, eternal. Everyone is bound to it. Everyone pays their due sooner or later. Tuck had always thought time was on her side. How could she not? When your very semblance revolved around it, you tended to develop delusions of grandeur. She believed her aura, nay, her very soul, was connected to the concept. Even her name was upon regard in time itself. Was that not destiny? Was it not fate? She felt it must be. Folks always teased her about that, but she took it like a fish took to water. As a little girl, she'd been fascinated with time, clocks, watches, and the like. As a clockmaker's daughter, she would spend endless nights taking such devices apart to see what made them tick. Then she'd try putting them back together again. More often than not, she failed, meaning Dad had to swoop in and fix things, but she loved it all the same. Those were happier times before Mom died, before Dad's death filled up, and before the drinking, the beatings, and all the awfulness that followed, before she'd unlocked her aura and discovered her semblance on the same day. How happy she'd been back then. Time itself was on her side. She thought she was chosen, that she was special. So what if she couldn't make it into Beacon? So what if she failed initiation all those years ago? It didn't matter. She didn't need anyone. She trained hard until what was once only a single second of invincibility became a minute. If given enough training, she knew it could become yet more, an hour, maybe even a day. No one would be able to touch her once she broke through that wall. She honed her skills and made a name for herself as a mercenary for hire, but legends attract attention, often the wrong kind. That was how Salem found Tuck, made her an offer she couldn't refuse, obey or die. What choice did she have? That woman was blessed, or perhaps cursed, by time too, where she could render herself invulnerable for a minute. This woman could shrug off even the most mortal of blows and heal with ease. She did not die, she did not age. Time bowed to her and was made her thrall. Initially, Tog had lusted after such power, craved it like the blood in her veins. After all, Selim was so much more than she could ever be. Surely she could understand her, so she'd served willingly at first, hoping to know her secrets. There was no such secret. Hers was a power she could never have, and she'd unknowingly shackled herself to a heartless monster. There could be no serve her until she would serve her until her dying breath. Still, despite her recent run of bad luck, Tuck knew time was on her side. It had to be, right? Rasengan! Until, quite suddenly, it wasn't. Naruto's attack smashed through Tuck's defenses and shredded her already weakened aura. Before launching her away, the spear bore into her stomach and slammed her down into the earth like a drill, painfully grating against her hardened skin until she finally managed to wrench herself free. She struck the ground and tumbled away, gasping as a sharp rock bore into her back. She ignored it and slammed to her feet, darting for the lip of the crater she'd been left in. For fear lifted her every thought, her thoughts turning wild and frantic as her hands scrambled for purchase in the dirt. This thing was beyond her. She had to run, flee, escape, get the hell out of Dodge before... No, you're not going anywhere. Clenched knuckles bared into the side of her face before she could crest the rise. Momentum proved itself even more ruthless than her whiskered adversary. That vicious punch caught her dead in the face, sending her skidding and skipping down the plane like a flung stone. Yet again, her semblance failed to protect her. Rather than the impact it shattered like brittle glass, leaving her curled in on herself, retching for air. It hurt. Oh gods, it hurt. She hadn't felt pain like this since she was a little girl. His shadow fell over her. How does it feel, Tuck? A familiar voice hissed in her ear. To be deconstructed? To be the victim? Bleary golden eyes looked up amid seething blue flames. I'm sorry, she wailed, scrambling out of his way. I didn't have a choice. She'll kill me. Maria hesitated, holding Summer safely behind her. Naruto showed no such mercy and chased her down. A spinning kick caught Tuck's chest and sent her crashing into a wall of rock. A second stomp caught her chest and all but planted her there in planted her there like a tree, yet a third wedged her body into a stone like some kind of crude scarecrow. Arms and legs spread helplessly to the sides. "We all have choices," he stormed after her, eyes pulsing gold as she thrashed upright. "You chose to be a murderer, a killer for coin. I take that real personal." Talk turned her head aside and spat a bloody glob into the dirt. A tooth went with it. She grimaced. This couldn't go on. This couldn't go on. She wouldn't last until nightfall at this rate. And yet his words stung her. She hadn't chosen this life. Sure, she'd been a mercenary before, and she'd taken her share of bandits and thieves since. Hey, it happened in her line of work. But Salem had been the one to make her kill innocents. She didn't even get paid for this shit. Her payment was her life. That was it. And he dared to say he knew her. "Shut up!" Anger bloomed with her as the sun began to set behind him. "You don't know anything. What I've been through, what I've seen. None of it, none." His fist slammed into her throat to silence her diatribe, leaving her head to slam back into the well with a croak. "I don't want your excuses." A thin hand clamped down on her face, wrenching it back to look in the eye. "I want you to get on your knees and your hands and knees." He all but spat the words. "I want you to beg Little Cinder for forgiveness. I want you to apologize to Maria and spend the rest of your life atoning for your mistakes." Wow, this bastard was more naive than he looked. Did he really think forgiveness was that simple? It couldn't be. It never was. "And then what?" Talk glared back, fear overwhelmed but defiance. "You'll let me join your merry little band? How's that gonna work out?" He released her visage and she tossed her head from side to side. "Even if I mean the words, it doesn't change what I did. I tried to kill both of your girls over there. No way in hell they'll forgive me." "They might not." His eyes flickered red for the merest of moments. "But you can still try to make amends." A lonely girl raised her head in Talk's heart. Maybe he was right. This guy clearly knew how to fight. He was no match for Salem. No one was. But there was strength to be had in numbers. She tried that once. It hadn't worked back then. But maybe now, if she could keep enough bodies between her and her employer, maybe then, just maybe. Fear shattered that thought. "I can't," she said instead. "She'll kill me." "Who?" Naruto grabbed her by the shoulders. "Give me a name." Talk bit her tongue until she tasted blood. She nearly answered, nearly damned herself. Now she didn't dare. No, now she didn't dare. Salem was always watching. She was probably observing them even now. Who was to say she didn't have a Nevermore nearby? Or worse, one of the larger Grimm? If she acted even a little suspicious, her mistress would snuff her out like a blown candle. "So that's it then?" A tiny voice hissed. "Fight or die." That's no life at all." Naruto must have seen some of the fear in her eyes, because his stance softened, not with pity, never that, but just a sliver of empathy, as if he somehow understood her from the look alone. What was he, able to read negative emotions or something? Nah, an ability like that would be bullshit, not to mention overpowered. "You're too late, Whiskers," she whispered. 20 years too late. Bull. He didn't let go. "It's never too late to change your ways." She flashed him a self-same smile. "Yes, it is. Stubborn little." "No." His eyes narrowed. "Have it your way then. I'll knock some sense into you." Head spinning, mind whirling, she somehow managed to duck the swing that came flying down at her head. Stone shattered and she fell forward with gasp. It took everything she had and more just to push herself up on her hands and knees. A bead of sweat dripped into her right eye, forcing a squint from her eyes. Oh gods, everything hurt. How was she still standing? "Is that all you got?" Naruto didn't answer, not with words. At any rate, he didn't have to. The silent fury in his eyes told her all she needed to know. As he stormed after her, he was her jury executioner. Strange as it might sound, she lived on his mercy alone. He could have killed her at any time, yet he hadn't. Why hold back at all? The notion called her. "Come on," she willed her semblance. "Work. You're my partner. Damn it! You're supposed to protect me." She was starting to feel like one of those old broken clocks from her childhood, broken on the inside, unable to be fixed, no matter how hard she tried to put it back together. Simply put, this blonde bastard was picking her apart. There were no openings to exploit here, no weaknesses to take advantage of, nothing. She couldn't get past at him to strike at Maria or Summer, the latter now firmly guarded by the Grim Reaper herself. Even if she didn't somehow slip by, she knew the blonde would simply tag team her. One of them was bad enough. She couldn't handle Blondie and that woman at once. Her aura could not fail her. Not here. Not now. I'll try to make this quick. Her tormentor advanced on her, and this time she saw pity in his gaze. It burned. One way or another, Tok dove on her fallen weapons and snatched them up again, crossing them before her body in a loose X formation. Naruto rolled his eyes and lengthened his stride, blue eyes glowing golden once more. She'd fought him long enough by now to know that look, not patronization, but not amused. Swords didn't work on him. Nothing did. Even unarmed, he could shatter her semblance. So she pushed her semblance hardest until her head ached. Naruto closed the distance in an instant, battered her short sword aside, and ripped the other free from her hand. Tok never even felt him ram the hilt into her face until it was too late. Didn't realize she blacked out at all until she hit the floor. She jolted back to the wakefulness until in time she catched a boot to her ribs. She took the hit with a grunt and tumbled away, spitting blood. "Stop holding back!" she yelled at him. "I have to," he informed her primly. "If I hit you at full force again, you'll break." Even with her aura faltering and her body breaking, she forced herself to her feet again. To fail Salem here meant her death, but listening to him, something told her that would be a fate worse than death. A strange sense of hopelessness began to overtake her. No matter what she did, what she said, or what she thought, she was going to die regardless. Then why fight at all? Tok shook the thought aside and slammed another aura buster into her thigh to fight off the exhaustion. Her world burned white, and the soundless gasp fled from her lips, but it gave her the strength to stand. Damn drugs didn't really enhance her aura per se. They simply tricked parts of her body into producing more adrenaline, which in turn cultivated more of the precious protection she had come to rely upon. You really weren't supposed to take so many of them, but what choice did she have? If not for these, she'd be a stain on the ground by now. He cannoned into her, and she barely got a blade up in time. Against her better judgment, she swung at his fist this time. It was like striking rock. Instead of cutting open the vulnerable flesh of his hand, her blade warped as the whiskered warrior pounded a fresh dent into it. What the hell? That wasn't aura. Aura didn't bend steel. She was still balking at it like a rank amateur when he swept her legs and left her sprawling once more. "Kill me," she snarled up at him. He shook his head. "No, I won't do that." Spittle frothed at her lips. "If you don't, she will." Even so, his brow drew down, hardening with resolve. "I won't kill you." Something gave way deep inside Tok, altering the very concept of her soul. She flung herself at him like a wild animal, and he beat her senseless for it. Each slap stung. Every punch pounded her into the ground. With each successful strike, she grew weaker, batted about like a child. She felt like one too, powerless, unable to control her destiny, doomed to die at one hand or another. If this blonde bastard didn't get her, and it was looking like he would, then Salem would. Even if she ran away here and now, she would be hunted to the ends of the earth. "It's not fair," a tiny voice in her heart wailed. "It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. Not. She wanted to do over, a reset, something, anything. Please." Her fist lashed out into a wild punch. Claws stared at Naruto's face. He grunted, slapped her hand aside, and drove a knee into her solar plexus. Air rushed from her lungs, and she bent over his legs. Clawed fingers latched onto his knees. But that proved a mistake, as he simply raised both hands over his head, locked them together, and brought them down on her collarbone. Yet again, her aura faltered, and her semblance buckled as she crashed into the dirt, burned down the very last dregs. She wanted to live. Her semblance, her soul, the very concept of time, reacted accordingly. For all her flaws and faults, it had been doing its darndest to keep her alive this entire time. Now, already overclocked and overworked by no small amount of boosters and outside forces, it took the only way out, the only route it could find. Even if it meant breaking her, defense wasn't enough to win the day here. Defense wasn't enough. It would never be enough. She wasn't able to run away either. No amount of speed would save her. Something else was required. A miracle. A sudden spasm rocked Tok's battered body. Why was she fighting again? Everything felt fuzzy. All of a sudden, the faunus girl shook her head against it and lunged again, fangs bared. Naruto didn't even deign to dodge. Instead, he chose to grapple her. Mistakes were made. He wasn't just faster than her; he was stronger too, much stronger. Within moments, she found herself forced back forced back on the back foot, back again. I won't let you, she snarled, spitting blood. I won't let you beat me. She kicked at his groin, but missed, her heel arching low, forcing him to release her and fall back once more. Wait, how had she missed? She never missed. This time, Talk wasn't able to pursue him. Instead, her legs buckled, and she was forced to catch herself on a rock outcropping, lest she toppled down completely or flickered anew. She didn't her bruised body one last time. Another booster came and went, jammed into her thigh, then another still. They should have helped. It only made things worse. Her mind, already a chaotic mess, grew more and more muddled with each passing moment. Her tongue felt heavy in her mouth. Her thoughts wailed in cotton. Her swords, already cradled and pitied by her opponent, suddenly became heavy, leaving her unable to swing her or strike with her usual finesse. Too heavy for her to wield properly. Talk blinked blearily at them, not quite understanding what was transpiring. What the hell? They looked the same as always. Had someone done something to them? Naruto closed in again. Instantly, it was all she could do to defend herself. Had he gotten faster, or was she just slower? Who am I? The thought hit her without warning. How silly. She was. Who was she? A pit of dread opened in Talk's stomach. Something was wrong here. Terribly, horribly wrong. She felt weird. Sick, like she'd eaten too much for dinner or drank too much. She couldn't see straight. Everything was blurry. She looked up and wondered why she had to. She'd been almost eye level before. Did she know this person? Her mind told her she should, but her head and heart felt disconnected. She fought wildly now, swinging her sword like a rank amateur. Then despairing when she was unable to lift them at all. A fresh pang of terror bloomed in her heart, blinding her to all else. Finally, a spinning kick sent her sprawling to the floor, and she couldn't take it anymore. The dam in her heart burst, and a torrent of emotion poured forth. No, she wailed. Stop it, you're mean. Naruto pressed in again, but something stopped him short before he could deal the final blow. A look of confusion flitted across his face, and he dug his heels up, coming up short, shocked just as well too, because Talk had made no move to defend herself. Rather, she was unable to. She had to crane her head just to look up at him now. Up higher still. Moira blinked rapidly at her. What? Summer followed suit. The hell! Naruto hissed. It was all too much for Talk's broken mind to comprehend. Who were these people? They were bigger than her. They were scary. She didn't understand. Couldn't understand. Where was Daddy? Where had Mommy gone? With that final tremendous thought, her old self died. The last of her aura guttered out as her semblance sealed itself away in the very depths of her heart. All that remained was the shell of her former self, a frightened little girl staring up at a young man with blood on his face and blazing blue eyes. The once infamous assassin looked up from the pool tent of her clothes, all 4 years old. Her lower lips began to tremble. Tears stung at her eyes, harsh and biting. Oh shit, the blonde yelped. No, it's okay, don't cry. He raised his arms, trying to ward her tears off. His shouting only made things worse. The child bawled. What in the world? Naruto frowned down at the bawling child at his feet. This wee slip of a girl who had once been a dangerous assassin and a determined enemy, no longer. As she was now, Talk couldn't hope to fight her way out of a wet paper bag, much less hurt someone. Never mind that. Who, what, when, where, why? Moreover, how? Kurama, he hissed. What am I looking at here? I believe that's a crying child. No shit, Sherlock. He stole a glance at his marked hand, alarmed to find it cold and inert. It had been pulsing for the duration of his fight with Talk, but now was curiously silent. Yet another mystery for him to unravel. Had he amplified Talk's semblance somehow? Did it backfire from all those needles she shot into herself? Was that even possible? Might there be some outside factor at work here? He couldn't be sure. One moment he'd been pressing her in hopes of making her see sense, and the next her aura had gone berserk with that weird flash of green. And then this. Maria swore softly as she stepped up beside him. How did that happen? Don't know. He shrugged honestly. Should we Do something about her. Blue eyes flickered back to talk, and his heart went out to her. Only a monster would ignore a crying child, but something told him he was the last person she wanted to see right now. Instead, he turned to face Mira once more. That was her name, right? Talk had let it slip during their brawl. Speaking of slip, her right ear had been mangled by Talk's blade, badly at that. Let me see that injury of yours, he said at last. It's a mess. I need to treat it before it gets infected. The Grim Reaper regarded him weirdly, but tilted her head regardless. If you say so, but I don't think you can. Her words pitched into a yell, to yelp as he pressed his marked hand over her mangled ear and focused. Just as he'd done so many times before, he didn't so much as heal it as he did make her a new one, just as he'd done once with Kakashi's eyes so long ago. Her body knew its shape already. It was just a simple matter of helping it along and encouraging growth again. Much to his surprise, his mark hadn't pulsed at all just now. When he pulled his hand away, Maria's ear was left whole and new. The hunters grasped at it, eyes wide. Well, that's certainly one hell of a semblance, she muttered, her cheeks still rosy. You must be in pretty high demand with a gift like that. Naruto couldn't quite keep the smile from his face. It's not a semblance. Silver eyes blinked, a bit of her accent slipping through. What do you mean it's not a semblance? It's gotta be. Nope. Summer smacked her lips, bullying in between them at last. Papa's got all kinds of them. Multiple semblances. No, wait a minute. Silver eyes swiveled back at him. He's your dad? Naruto and Summer exchanged a bemused glance. Talk sniffled and ruined it. I'm sorry. All right. Maria turned and dared a tentative step towards their old enemy. Come here, kiddo. Let's get you taken care of. It's scary. A little girl wailed and flailed her arms, drawing a flinch from the Reaper. Stay away. Naruto quirked an eyebrow. Seems she doesn't like you. I'd like to see you try. Summer proved slower to follow them, if only because the orphan was gazing intently at the now tiny Talk, as though she'd grown a second head. The younger girl continued to sniffle at their feet, clutching her clothes to herself like a tent, and looking like she wanted to just disappear into them. She seemed so pitiful, lost even. Silver Eyes swung back to him. Did you do this? She asked. Yeah, no. Naruto waved his hands rapidly before crossing them in an X shape before either could question him again. What, did they think he was a lolicon or something? That wasn't me. I can't do that. Not a chance in hell. Pretty sure it has something to do with all those syringes she injected into herself. Look, one arm indicated the mess left behind by their fight. Everyone else all seen her everyone else all saw herself amping herself up during their fight. If that weren't enough, the empty syringes scattered about told a grisly tale all of itself. Small wonder she'd been such a mess by the end. Still, to do this. We're told not to use aura boosters unless it's an emergency, Maria confirmed. It's akin to injecting dust straight into your veins. You'd certainly be stronger for a time, but your body would begin to break down after a while. His word fell silent. This is worse than death, Summer declared, suddenly thumbing her nose. Now she's a kid again. She's even younger than me. Tug hiccuped softly and gave a fretful look, golden eyes wide and fearful. Who are you? Just like that, Summer's good mood vanished. You don't even remember me? No, little Talk wilted. You're scary too, Summer squeaked. Me, scary? Whatever happened to her? She seemed to have lost her memories, Maria mused, and thumbing her chin. Gods, it's like she's a completely different person. Naruto considered those words for a long moment. Child and Talk had undoubtedly been an enemy. Still, it didn't feel right batting her about as she was now, which began another question, one he really didn't want to answer at all. What to do with her? The sun had all but set now, and the last fading threads of light were leaving the horizon. They couldn't just leave her here. She'd starve to death. Summer was still glaring silver daggers at the poor thing, though. She might not take too kindly to her presence, temporary or no. How amusing, Kerman bristled. Did you hear that? An awful rattling noise caused their little group to jump. Nope, not dealing with zombies. Naruto flung up a hand in the direction of the bodies Maria had left behind. I swear if one of you gets back up, I'm gonna put you in the ground. No one moved, yet the noise still persisted. He rounded on the sound and found a silver suitcase nearby, sprawled beside one of Talk's men, just out of the reach. hard one of them dropped it. Had they must have. And then again he'd not paid them much attention during their brawl. Was there something in there? Stalking towards it, he gave the metal case a firm kick that made it worse, so he kicked it again, thrice for good measure, rather than fall still like a good inanimate object. The suitcase continued to thrash about wildly until quite suddenly, what is that thing? Something emerged from within. Whatever it was, it didn't look right, even for a Grim. If anything, it resembled some kind of hideous red and black jellyfish, one filled with noxious red fluid and brimming with sharp tentacles. Nasty thing. It hung there in the air for a long, ponderous moment. Naruto felt the hairs on the back of his neck rise as he leveled his staff at it. My! A rich, indulgent voice emanated from within the Crimson Depths. I haven't been this interested in quite some time. Without warning, the creature began to convulse, tentacles curling around its bulbous body, as though caught in a giant's fist. So too did it crumble, cracks etching across what might have passed for its face. Talk wailed at the sight and ducked her little head, covered her face with tiny arms, but no attack came. Instead, the Grim crashed to the ground and went still. Grandma blew out a sigh. I suppose it's too much to hope that that's the end of it all. Naruto squared his shoulders and pushed Maria behind him. She did the same with Summer in return. As the unlikely trio looked on, a swirl of sinister ebony mist engulfed the falling Grim. Rather than dissipate, the mist coalesced from the creature's corpse, a malevolent red light shining within. Soon enough, it took on the towering shape of an unfamiliar individual, the specter of one being most foul. Just like that, they found themselves face to face with the mother of all evil. And so, the brave hunter bests the wicked witch and saves the princess. The voice intoned anew. Its owner regarded him intently. Congratulations! His red eyes rimmed by black sclera burned with a pale face framed by startling scarlet veins and ashen hair, though her body was smoke below the neck, and so little of her form could be glimpsed. The sight of her still filled Naruto with mounting unease. Hers was an eternal beauty, cold and cruel, ancient beyond measure, full lips quirked into a small smile at them. It did not reach her eyes. Those were fixed firmly on him. And you must be Naruto, she crooned, lacing his very name with poison. So nice to finally meet, to put a name to the face that ruined my plans. Feelings mutual, miss. Her smile shrank. I have been called many things in my time. The woman raised a pale hand, inspecting the dark nails there. Queen, Empress, Conqueror. My names are more numerous than the stars themselves. But you, the sly smile came back with vengeance and brought property in his heart. You may call me Salem, leader of the Grim. Oh, bugger. Summer sucked in a sharp breath behind him. A single look had her hiding behind Naruto's legs. Salem, then. He granted the speaker a wary nod, not trusting her for a moment. Look, whoever you are, whatever you want, we didn't come here to fight you. Nor I you. I only wish to reclaim what is mine. The specter's gaze swept past him and alighted upon poor Tuck, or rather, what once was. Red eyes narrowed as she saw her reduced state. The girl quailed under her gaze. Oh! She swept closer, her misty form gliding across the ground with ease. What have we here? Your semblance backfired, didn't it? She shook her head. I warned you not to rely on it very much. Now look what has become of you. You're a shadow of your former self. Who are you? The one-time assassin tried to crawl back, only to trip over herself. Go away. I think not, child. Salem drifted closer. Do you remember me? Little Talk whimpered softly. Please stop. No. Then I suppose I should just kill. That's enough. In hindsight, Naruto wasn't sure what compelled him to act, only that his legs betrayed him and he started moving. 3 swift strides carrying him forward. 2 more placed him firmly between the fallen assassin and her employer. Another brought him well within reach of Salem. His marked hand arched up, palm burning like a second sun. Protecting her, are we? Selim regarded his hand with mild curiosity. How quaint. Was she not your enemy only a moment ago? What she is ain't nothing of your damn business. Oh, but it is. Selim leaned forward, nearly pressing her forehead to his. A bitter chill came with it. We have a pact, that girl and I. She has failed me twice now, and as such, she must be punished for said failure. Inept children deserve such. Do you not agree? She moved forward, preparing to pass through him. Instinct compelled the blonde to step in and swinging his arm upright. No! His marked hand met her halfway, bringing with it a burst of Kurma's golden chakra. Selim recoiled with a startled hiss and shot back, clutching at her now smoldering chest. A chunk of her shadowy form was missing, burned away by his very touch. When next she raised her gaze, baleful red eyes regarded him, not with fear, but awareness all the same. I thought that. She touched a hand to her smoky chest, frowning as though it had betrayed her. What are you? Dr. Ristler glanced down as he felt someone tug on his leg. Little Talk looked up at him with something resembling hope. Damn it all, he couldn't just leave her to die, could he? Sasuke might be willing to do something like that, but not him, never him. Only a demon would let a child be slaughtered before their very eyes. When he raised his own, he allowed them to flicker with a crimson spark of their own. I'm no one special. He felt the beginnings of a smile tug at his lips. Just a shinobi. Is that so? Selim's smile returned, but this time it held an edge all its own. Allow me to make you a counter-offer then, shinobi. Serve me. Blue eyes fluttered in a rapid blink. Excuse me? Kurma coughed. Well, didn't see that one coming. You can't. Maria found her voice at last and rushed to his side. She's pure evil. Silence, fool. Selim scowled down at her. The grown-ups are talking. Misguided children should know their place. Naruto flung up an arm before the Grim Reaper could snap back. Tick-tock in summer. Just let me handle this, all right? His words earned him a baleful look, but he didn't back down, and she yielded soon enough. Muttering to herself, the young huntress dipped down, pried Talk from his leg, and retreated 7 paces before repeating the same process with Summer. Both girls immediately kicked up a fuss. It was all he could do not to look back at them. She didn't take them afar, just far enough for Salem to lose interest in them. Precisely what he intended. Better him than her. He dared not take his eyes off her, not even for a moment. Ghost or not, spectre or no, she was someone to be wary of. Shall I make the same offer to your friends as well? We need not be enemies. As he looked on in mild distaste, the queen's spectral form sank back and reclined upon some distant and unseen throne. I have seen your skills for myself. You're quite talented, as is the Grim Reaper. One hand rose beneath her chin as she tilted her head to regard him, exposing the slender expanse of her neck, most invitingly. You are, the both of you, more than Talk could ever hope to be. Her lips pursed now in distaste. Good help is so hard to find these days. Wouldn't you agree? Can't argue with you there. He shrugged him. Maybe you should try making friends. Might do you some good. The queen scoffed and turned up her nose at him. I have no need of friends. See, I'm thinking you do. You reek of negativity. Do not bandy words with me, boy. Her brow turned stormy as a note of warning crept into her voice. This is not an offer I make lightly. One hand rose, a spectral palm held out to him. Join me, stand at my side, and I shall grant your heart's desire. Refuse. That hand clenched up now into a fist, trailing wisps of dark smoke, and we will be enemies. Naruto wrinkled his nose. Something tugged in his chest. Her words tempted him. His heart's desired a chance to go home. Could she provide that? Was it a trick? Yes, no, maybe. A part of him wanted to go back to find Kaguya and punch her in the mouth for stranding him and the rest of his team here in this god's forsaken world. He dared a quick look over his shoulder back to where he knew Maria had taken the girls. They were waiting for him to simply toss them aside for the sake of a selfish wish. How could he really do that? He knew his answer. Sorry. He shook his head and linked both arms and his tattered sleeves. I'm gonna have to decline. Also, nope. And it was Salem's turn to blink. Pardon. We may not be friends. Just as quickly he pulled them apart and offered a hand of his own. But that doesn't mean we have to be enemies. Her expression turned contemplative. Are you suggesting a pact of non-aggression then? Nah, he waved his marked hand like a torch. I'm thinking more along the lines of what I said earlier. When his words earned him only a slow blink, he sighed and palmed his face. Despite what you said, I'm thinking you really do need a friend, else you wouldn't feel so damn sad. Her brow darkened again, but he barreled on. I may not be the sharpest tool in the shed. A finger tapped his forehead, but I'm a damn good sight at reading negative emotions. And you, lady, you're one big bundle of them. So here's my counteroffer to your counteroffer. He offered her his hand again. You want me to join you? He called out into the night. Then talk to me. Treat me as an equal. Convince me that your side is the right side. And if I refuse, then we find each other and fight. Then we find each other and fight a year from now. He shrugged. Winner take all. Sounds fair. Yeah. A slender brow rose. Why a year? Are you that afraid to face me? Really? Well, she was going for it. He'd thrown the number out on a whim, if only because he wasn't eager to leap headlong into another brawl. Something told him this Salem wouldn't be easy to face. He needed to prepare for her. Anyone who had talk quaking her boots was someone to beware. Of course, he couldn't say any of that without altering her before alerting her to his harebrained scheme. Instead, he shrugged. Isn't that the norm for this sort of thing? I just got out of one battle. I'm not eager to leap into another. She clicked her tongue. I am an immortal, you fool of man. I cannot be bested. His grin grew. Then why refuse me? You've got nothing to lose. What the hell are you doing? Kerma hissed. Going with a gut feeling. Shut it. The mother of all grim regarded him with wide eyes. Baleful red orbs flicked down to his hand, back to his face, down to his hands again. A host of alarming emotions flashed across her pale visage, and despite the many miles separating them, perhaps it had something to do with her spectral body, he was able to read them all: shock, delight, rage, hope, fear, and a hint of, was that longing? Wait, why would she be feeling that? Alas, while wise in some ways, he was still thick as a brick in others. Ha! A peal of delight laughter burst out of Salem, with neither word nor warning, nearly causing him to jump. It was a short, sharp sound, almost raw, as if she hadn't used it in eons, almost like she'd forgotten how. Her body bent doubled as she clutched at her sides, nearly holding herself in half as she snickered at him. An unladylike snort escaped her, but she didn't stop. Almost made her sound human. Really? My, you are a bold one, she cooed, straightening her back. To think you tried to seduce me. Seduce? No, that hadn't been his intention at all. If only we'd met a few centuries ago. She regarded him with a wistful sigh. You might have been. No, she shook her head slowly, hardening her resolve. That time is long past. I accept your challenge, Lightbringer, but when you lose and lay break before me, know this. She bowled in suddenly, and for a moment she almost seemed solid. You will bend the knee to me. Sure. He grinned fearlessly back at her. If you think you can make me, and when you lose to me, you have to be my friend. Just you wait. I'll have you kissing my feet. Salem reared back, suppressing smug in her triumph. 1 year, make your preparations. They will avail you not. We'll see, he chirped. 1 year, she repeated, stabbing a finger at him. When the choice day comes, I will find you. Sure hope so. He planted both hands in his pockets. I don't really know where you are. Something strange flashed across her face. Do not disappoint me, Lightbringer. She vanished in a swirl of black light before he could get another jab in. He still hadn't asked about the title she'd given him. Lightbringer, Have you gone mad? Ow. He winced as Kerma's shout filled his mind. Not so loud. I have a plan, damn it. You'd best. Naruto blew out a sigh as his partner continued to rant at him, dug a finger into his right ear to get the ringing out of it, and shook his head. Only then did he stomp his way back to where he knew Maria was waiting for him. 2 kids to keep an eye on now, and another stranger with silver eyes to boot, and he just made a deal with the devil, all in the hopes of a single harebrained scheme, because he felt she could be saved. Still, there was more than one way to skin a cat, or in this case, beat an immortal. He could only pray his friends and family were having an easier time of things. Alas, how little he knew of their plight, how very little indeed. And so passes a week. You have a visitor, my lady. Sakura didn't look up from her book when one of her guards called her. Maybe if she kept her head buried in this medical tome, they'd leave her be. If she pretended to be busy long enough, she could ignore potential applicants, or any word ending with "ence." She'd had all she could stand. She could of this Malacry. If one more person called her that. Is it Callie? Hey, a girl could hope. A pause followed. It is not, my lady. She's still sound asleep, as she should be. It was too damn early in the morning for this. Sarkar fought down a cranky sulk as she snapped her book shut and set it aside with the others. It had become wholly apparent that Menagerie was well and truly behind the other kingdoms in terms of medicine and the healing arts. She'd begun to address that. But it would take time. On her part. 5 more years at that very least, maybe a little longer. The island needed a proper hospital with clean rooms, proper procedures, medical equipment. So much to do, so little time. Send them in, Silas. She sighed, shoving the thought away. Her bodyguard, a big burly brute in heavy armor, snapped off a salute. As the goddess wills it, Lady of the Isles, Goddess of the Green, Chief of the Haruno clan. She didn't even have a clan. Her titles were far too numerous now, and her one simple chair was beginning to resemble a throne. She wasn't sure if she liked that. Naruto and Sasuke would laugh their asses off if they saw her like this. She just knew it. One of these days, Sakura swore, one of these days she was going to make everyone stop calling her that, but not this day. She was too tired to knock their heads together at the moment. Whoever had come to see her better be dying, or they would be when she was done with them. She wanted to sleep. For all their faults and flaws, these people were eager to learn, if nothing else. Another point in their favor, she'd started to teach classes on proper medicine and hygiene alike, and many had taken to it. These folks would not be caught unprepared when she left the island. They listened to her, and they were eager to answer her questions. It also brought her up inquiries of her own. These people lacked chakra, but they made up for it in their own way. She marveled at it. Night vision was only the beginning. Some of them possessed unique abilities, not just aura and synthesis, but gifts unique to their own fondest features. She'd even glimpsed a girl who could blend in with her surroundings. Could some of these people be trained as ninja? Could they be taught? It was a thought she toyed with over the last few days, among other things, but now was not the time for such. When the doors squeaked open, she willed herself to straighten her back and sit up properly. Ugh, how she hated it. Proper posture was a pain. A stranger in a beige cloak shuffled into her hall, shepherded by 2 guards, because she had those now. Ugh, times 2. And who are you? She asked. At last, the woman smiled. Long have I searched for someone like you. Sakura regarded the old crone before her with weary eyes. She clearly had business with her. Why else come all the way out to Menagerie? She looked like she was on her last legs. The very act of standing seemed to drain her visibly. Even now, the elder leaned heavily against her gnarled wooden cane, hunched back, quivering with every breath. She raised a veiny fist to her mouth and gave low, rattling coughs. Oh dear! Despite her early irritation, the medic in Sakura sprang to life, and she descended the days. You're terribly ill. Let me have a look at you. Her guest made no effort to move. My health matters not, dear girl. A wrinkled hand slashed through the air to forestall her advance. I have come to assess your worth. If you are who you claim to be, I would give you my power. From it, the very air seemed to tremble between them. Sakura stopped only an arm's breadth away. Green eyes narrowed. Power? You know not of it? Keen eyes regarded her beneath the shadows of her hood. Perhaps that is for the best. Regardless, I wish to be rid of this burden. With a painful crack, she straightened her back and stood, fingers trembling as she supported her full weight against her crane. You would wield it far better than I. Indeed, I suspect none would be able to take it from you. A faint feeling of dread regarded itself in Sakura's heart, and she took half a step back. Such a pure soul. A hand pulled back said hood, exposing a tanned face lined with age, framed by dark hair, and eyes like dull blue eyes sapphires. In them, Sakura glimpsed now a careworn smile. There's no need to be afraid, dear girl. You do not know of what I speak. You will, in time. Sarkar's right eye twitched. And you will lay down if you know what's good for you. No, a trembling hand intercepted her. You misunderstand. I did not come here for healing. I have come here to die. She pulled a weapon from her sleeves and the guards bristled. Gun! No! Sarkar flung up a hand. Don't! Too late. 3 shots rang out. The 3 bullets found their mark. The woman toppled backwards. A triumphant smile wreathed her face. Sarkar dove forward to catch her, only for the woman's weapon to clatter against the ground with an odd sound. She balked at the bundle for a moment before she realized it was just that. And not a weapon at all, but a plastic toy. This woman had come here to take had come here not to take. The woman had not come here to take lives, but to be killed. Why? Who came all the way here to the middle of nowhere just to die? It didn't make sense. At last, the crone croaked in her arms. Release. A quick diagnosis jutsu confirmed her worst fears. She'd taken 2 rounds in the lungs and 1 in the heart. There could be no coming back from this. It was a miracle she wasn't dead already. Even now, her lifeblood had begun to stain her crimson dress and even darker shades of scarlet, pulling on the floor. It was such a waste of life. It hurt to see it. Hurt her more than words. Why? She croaked out. Protect the power. A veiled hand closed around hers. Keep it away from the Dark One and the man of many faces. I don't know what you're talking about. Unfortunately, the old crone held no more answers for her, or if she did, she chose not to give them. Those eerie bright eyes went dim and her body sagged, head lolly and lifelessly to one side. Sarkar grimaced and forced a pulse of healing chakra into the woman's chest, trying to resurrect her. And then it happened. Unseen by anyone else, a flash of light surged up out of the woman's chest into Sakur's palm and up her arm with impossible force. Living fire coursed through her veins. Startled, the Konoichi gasped and wrenched her arm away, only to find her breath stolen from it. With it, the light found its home in her chest and lashed on with all its might, binding itself to her bound body and soul. She tried to form words, but none would come to her, only a faint summer breeze and the odd scent of desert sands. What is this? Her attention shifted inwards as she pushed still more chakra to her hands, searching for the anomaly, the poison, whatever the hell this was. She could breathe again, think again, but that wasn't enough. This mad woman had done something to her, given her something against her will. Whatever it was, she'd find it and root it out. Air rushed back into her lungs, and something expanded in her soul. There was power inside her now, strength untold, lurking beneath the surface. She could feel it burning like an inferno in her chest, choking her, spreading to every inch of her body and soul, separate from her own chakra, yet so much more. With each passing instant, it grew stronger, a mighty blaze building deep inside her, begging to be unleashed. The air crackled around her like a coming storm, even as ice frosted over her fingers. She grit her teeth, choking down a scream as tongues of blue flames forced themselves past her teeth. Stop, she hissed at it. This is my body, not yours. Frantic, she hugged both arms to her chest and wrestled it down as best she could. With every scrap of her resolve, she willed it, whatever it was, to be calm and still within her, not a raging flame, but a gentle river flowing downstream. It fought her every step of the way, howling for release, and she ruthlessly denied it, choked it as it had choked her, shackled it and bent it to her will. She wasn't sure how long she knelt there, how long it was until she finally got her body back under control. Seconds, minutes, hours. When she finally looked up, she found her guards gaping around her. My lady, one of them made a strange sign with their right hand. Your eyes. Her eyes, what about them? Someone offered her a small handheld mirror. Sakura accepted it with a grateful nod, not quite understanding what all the fuss was about. She could see just fine, though now that she squinted, she could see the faintest outlines of something shimmering at the edges. Dismissing it as nothing, she gazed into the mirror. In an instant, she saw her reflection. Oh dear! Her eyes all but burned with wild emerald flames. Sakura touched a hand to her face. Well, that can't be good. Previews. Have you lost your mind? Naruto shrugged. No. Nicholishly offered him his hand. You're hired. Kakashi smiled behind his mask. Glad you saw things my way. Do forgive my daughter. She's only 12. If you could perhaps train her. You ask us to trust you, yet you bring an army to our doorstep. Haven's headmaster regarded him warily. Why should we form a pact with you? A reason to trust me? Sasuke blinked. Was that all? Easily remedied. That's it, all right. Perhaps a demonstration is in order. His eyes pulsed, invited flames bloomed around him as the blazing giant towered over the academy. This is the gift I offer you. Moria smiled softly. I think she's sweet on you. She sees you as her big sister. Naruto continued to rock the smaller girl in his arms, soothing her to sleep. Summer looked at Talk like a snake. I still don't forgive her. The young girl regarded her with bleary eyes. Sis, she lisped words. What did I do? Oh, forget it. I give up. End of chapter 4.